All right. Mark, are you ready?
I am. I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's week 9 of our Partner Spotlight series, and we are definitely on a roll. We've had a lot of fun talking to our technology partners, as well as opinions coming in from academia, and then talking to our SI partners as well. This week, we continue the focus on our technology partner with our friends from the Alpega Group. And joining me today, have the pleasure of having as our guest Mark McArthur, who is the Managing Director of North America for Alpega. Mark, welcome to the Partner Spotlight Series.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, excited to hear your viewpoints on these questions that we'll be asking you. And for our audience, let me just remind you that we are on LinkedIn Live, and we're also running on Zoom Live. So we have people attending on 2 different platforms. We will be taking questions. We look forward to your comments. If you're on, one thing we could do to get the conversation started is, what's been your biggest supply chain challenge, maybe in 1 sentence? So if you could put that into the comments, that would be great. Also, feel free to ask questions and we'll get those to Mark. And as always, if we do not get to all the questions, what we will do is we'll get those to Mark, and then we'll come back and get the answers posted. So with that said, again, thanks for joining us. Mark, what I like to do with every week when I launch this is I talk a little bit about how I know my guest that I'm bringing on. And it's a little bit of a funny story here because when Mark and I met, we were on the phone, we were talking, and when the subject went really quick to golf, and we were chatting about golf. Both, avid golfers, love golf, and then we had a meeting up in Minneapolis, and it was in the winter, and Mark rented out it's not a Top Golf, but it was a place that had a golf simulator, and we got to, our teams got together and everything. And so I think there was a hidden agenda here, because we started playing on that simulator, and Mark, he spanked me pretty bad on that round of golf. So I think there was a hidden agenda there from a standpoint of, I'll teach that guy from Tennessee a lesson.
Well, if I remember right, we were also playing Pebble Beach.
We were. That's the beauty of a simulator. You can play anywhere.
Well, that's the only way I can afford to play Pebble Beach is on a simulator.
Yeah, exactly. But at some point in time, as soon as this pandemic's over, we're definitely going to get out on the golf course for real. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Mark, enough with the pleasantries. We're going to get into this. We have these questions that we want to ask you. Are you ready to go to the hot seat?
Well, yeah, I am. You're not going to comment on my lake background here, are you? So
well,
I'll move over to the side so people can see the lake.
I am, and I'm glad you did that, because my understanding is from a real news flash weather report, is that Minneapolis had quite the weather event last night and into this morning.
7 inches of snow yesterday, October 20th, set a record, 100-year, most snow in 100 years on that date.
Hey man, it's 2020.
That's right. It is. It's 2020. All right, so let's go to the hot seat.
All right, here we go. We're going to ask these questions. So and it's really not the hot seat, but we're really looking forward to hearing what you guys have been up to. So first question: with the pandemic, we saw many companies exposed with supply chain issues and now looking to use technology to build more resilient supply chains. What's been the impact to your business and just the transportation management landscape in general?
Yeah, so a couple of observations here, and let's start with the first one, and this one's the obvious, and internally within my team, we call it the COVID hesitation. So what you had was, all of a sudden people were working from home, and the whole work-life balance got upended. And so you had people arrive, at the home office. They had to adjust to not doing the commute anymore, being away from their work colleagues. But more importantly, too, if they had kids, they were home too. So you found yourself in your career now, not only just competing for silence, but competing for internet bandwidth on your home office setup. And so I think, people kind of hunkered down for a little while and they kind of adjusted to what is this temporary new normal going to be, and this new routine. And the other thing though is that people were available. It was easier to get people because they weren't away from their desks. We could carry on the conversations. We could get our messages out there. But I don't know that companies were exactly sure how to make decisions. And so they were thinking through that. So now, fast forward a little bit, we've gotten through the summer, we've gotten through the vacation period, got the kids back in school. There's a combination of distance learning, and home learning going on. People are still in their home office, but it's as if the floodgates have opened up. Hey, we've got these projects to do. We've got to address these problems that we have. And so we're seeing our business accelerate right now. We're seeing a lot of interest right now here, especially in North America. So what's been put on hold, no longer. They're active and they're having these conversations. So the second observation is this puts supply chain front and center. I mean, you heard governors in their press conferences talking to all the supply chain experts. And it really brought us out into the forefront of what is supply chain, what is TMS, what is logistics. And really the words flexible and agile come into mind. And that is everyone was looking for, wanting to have this flexibility and this agility, which simply means I got to be able to respond quickly. I want to minimize the disruption. I got to be able to respond quickly and react to these changes. So, choose your term here. Dynamic, simulations, modeling, optimization, across strategic all the way to dynamic and tactical. I mean, that was important. And having access to real-time data was very essential. So all of a sudden, there was a heightened focus on finding these kinds of solutions. And that's exactly what supply chain and TMS delivers. So, Thomas, a couple last thoughts on this question. Number one, if you think about it, this was global. This was not regional. Usually you have some kind of a regional boundary from this kind of a thing. You have a hurricane that hits a region, or an earthquake, or maybe you've got some political instability somewhere in the world. This was worldwide. This hit everybody all at once. And so, that also came into focus. That was different this time around. And then the other interesting observation is, if you think about it over the last decade or so, it's all been companies to get to lean manufacturing or JIT concepts. In other words, let's take inventory out of the supply chain and free up that capital. Well, all of a sudden, some of these supply chains were so thin that the supply got disrupted, and it really exposed those the lack of inventory to cushion the blow from that kind of a disruption. So those are some of the impacts that we've seen to date.
Yeah, that's great. I like the COVID hesitation. So that's interesting. I haven't heard that term used by any of our partners before, and I think you're spot on with that. It's interesting how things did hesitate, and finally it seems like things are breaking loose in regard to companies making technology decisions. And that's great to hear for you guys too, because you've got a lot of TMS, you got a lot of customers, and you got a lot of opportunities that are out there. So that's great.
Yeah, people are adaptable, they're resilient, and we all know that this is a temporary new normal. We just don't know how long we're going to be in this temporary new normal. Things will get back to normal, it will happen, but in the meantime, I think we've all learned how to work from home. I think people have adjusted to it. A lot of my colleagues say they really enjoy it. So I think we'll see some of these aspects become permanent, but we will get back to the old ways as well.
Yeah, great. So with the next question, which of Alpega's solutions does the market have growing interest in evaluating? So you've talked about, you're seeing that demand now, and you're seeing companies very interested. So it'd be specifically for our audience, it'd be great to understand, what solutions that Alpega has, or customers really interested in, or prospects interested in.
Yeah, so basically, I could say all of them, because we're a TMS company. That's all we do. We don't have an ERP system. We don't do supply chain planning, demand planning, or production planning. We don't do warehouse management. We do transportation management. So within that solution, though, I'll highlight 2 or 3 areas here. The first is freight procurement. So freight procurement is the ability to know that you have the best competitive rate or to secure the best rate, and to be able to do that quickly and efficiently. You know, with our Tender Easy platform, customers can do these kinds of requests more frequently, all right? Or they could also go out and do spot bids when their normal carrier can't pick something up, right? Or they could go outside of their network if they have a new location to go to, right? So, I mean, those that you think about it, you know, we have to find a new route or a new location. China shut down, they closed down with this pandemic. Or when you remember hearing all the governors talk about ventilators and PPE equipment and masks, right? I mean, all of a sudden you had new lanes and new routes that you had to restock from your distribution points if you were in that industry. So that's what freight procurement allows you to do, is to go out to the market and find carriers and competitive bids, you know, for those routes and lanes and send those out. I would say the second area is TMS, and we're going to talk a lot about TMS here today, but you know, our solutions cover what Gartner refers to as levels 1 through 5. So whether you're simple or complex, but within that, I would say there's two areas: better planning and optimization, and better execution. So, you know, optimization, you know, better optimization planning, that refers to efficiency. How can I, you know, make better data-informed decisions and not reactive ones? How do I automate my routine processes and reduce the risk of making a mistake and free up my people to focus in on the more difficult decisions? That's what optimization and planning do for companies. On the execution side, you know, how do we consolidate loads better? How do we, you know, do better load building? How do we, you know, reduce the amount of empty space that's out there? If we do that, you know, then we can have less empty miles. We have less empty miles, then that means that we're having a better impact on the economy, or we're positively impacting our sustainability goals. A couple areas within TMS. The last one, scheduling. And this is really got a lot of interest right now because it's a very low cost, quick win kind of a project. Companies can put this in very quickly and see the results almost immediately. And so when you think about it, our objective here is to reduce the congestion or the wait times with trucks sitting there waiting for a dock to open up to go in and load or unload. And you know, we pick that agreed upon delivery time, make sure that we have the resources that are there. You know, if it's, you know, requires special equipment to load or unload the truck, we know that all those resources are there, so we can be very efficient, get that truck in, get it unloaded, get it reloaded, or get it out of the way so that another truck can come in. You know, if you think about it, you know, these carrier wait times and the lack of visibility can have a tremendous detrimental impact on customer service. But dock scheduling goes a long way towards alleviating that. You can eliminate a lot of problems on the execution side with efficient dock scheduling.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that one, and all the things you said. And you know, I guess I like to say I'm a TMS junkie. I love TMS; it's my background. But and you know, and I've been fortunate enough to see the Alpega TMS and everything. One question that just popped up, it came in on the from the Zoom side. It said, how are Inet and Alpega linked together?
Okay, so great question. So Alpega is the rebranded name. You know, we're a private company owned by a private equity firm, and they brought 3 different companies and brought them together and formed Alpega. And one of those companies was Inet. So within our branded product portfolio, you know, Inet really is our go-to TMS solution. There was another one called Transwide. It does an excellent job on the low end when you have a full truckload kind of bulk shipping and have a very simple single mode of transportation. It works extremely well. And then the other company we've talked about, that was Tender Easy. So those 3 companies came together, and then there's a whole freight exchange piece as well for our European continent, where we, you know, really have multiple carriers there that can collaborate directly on our platform and grab loads or see what loads are available and make sure their trucks are full as well. So that's where so Inet and Alpega is within the Alpega family, and great product, and a lot of interest in it right now.
Great, thank you. Thanks to the who were asking that question. Getting some feedback there. So the pandemic exposed the need for shipment visibility and inventory visibility throughout the supply chain. So it'd be great to get your thoughts on how Alpega's customers are using visibility with the TMS to build more resilient supply chains.
Yeah, so we're seeing visibility as a key requirement, and that's why we're so excited about our strategic partnership here. It's no longer acceptable to lose sight of a shipment or lose focus. You can't say, hey, it's shipped, it's no longer my responsibility or my concern. That doesn't happen anymore. So if you think about it, that's really kind of that B2C expectation has really migrated towards B2B. You think about yourself as an individual consumer. When you're expecting a delivery to your home, where that is. Okay, I mean, even if you order a pizza, where the pizza is in terms of is it still being made or not. Think about an Uber. Not only if you order an Uber ride, not only do you know when it's going to arrive, where it is. They show you a map with the little icon with the car moving towards you. So that expectation now is migrated over into the B2B side, because more and more companies really are focusing on their customer experience over things like product features or price. They're wanting to make sure that their customer experience is the marquee thing about doing business with them, and that means that they've got to understand where they are with their supply chain, with all of their components and things coming in, both inbound and outbound. And so that's why visibility has become clear. So if all of a sudden I've got an inbound truck and I need to know whether it's early or late, so that I can make not only adjustments on my dock, but adjustments maybe to the production line. A lot of our customers, especially in the automotive industry, if you think about it, starting up and shutting down a production line due to a shortage of an inbound part, that is not an easy task and a very expensive one.
Well, exactly. The fact of having the ability to have the data from a visibility platform like us, Project 44, integrated into the TM, and then having that dock scheduling capability like you talked about, being able to make decisions, or a user can make decisions or make changes, right, on the schedule of the trucks coming in and out in real time, because they can see where the trucks are if they're running late, and then understand what the impact is to the labor associated with that specific dock door, or maybe they need to switch, that dock door may be assigned to a specific carrier and they can move it, right, and be able to see that. Exactly. And do that, make it easier for the operation, instead of having to use paper or phone calls or whatever the case may be. So yeah, there's a huge value there.
Absolutely, and again, you talk about this end-to-end visibility that these companies are looking for. It's critical for them to achieve their customer success goals. So they need to be alerted to expectations, exceptions from a customer experience perspective, but then from a warehouse and production planning, need to understand at what point do I have a problem that's going to impact, what could be anywhere from, half a dozen to hundreds of workers along a production line.
Absolutely. We're seeing it being more of a requirement now, like you said, but for all industries. It's not just specific. It used to be, maybe visibility was important to high tech or pharmaceutical, but now it's for everything. And it goes into that, it's the Amazon effect, right? It's that effect of our CEO, Jet McCandless, summed it up very well one time when he said, the delivery is just as important. The delivery experience is just as important as the product itself. And so, I harp on that all the time, because I believe that's true. And as a consumer of goods trying to buy online or in a store, I think about that all the time.
That's why the customer experience is becoming more important than the product, some of the product features and the price. people might pay more if they know they're going to get it on time every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is great. Again, we are live, so please feel free to post more comments. So Mark, here's another one I wanted your thoughts on. What are you seeing in the industry, and what technology trends do you think will benefit the supply chain ecosystem?
So yeah, so a couple of things here. I think, the first comment here is with respect to companies and their initiatives and their budgeting process. What I've seen really accelerate this year is, as companies scaled back a little bit with this pandemic, is the idea that these project budgets are very competitive. And, first of all, if you're going to get a project accepted, you've got to have a rock solid business case. You've got to have a rock solid expectation, a great an ROI within a specified amount of time, and so forth. So that's number one. If you don't have that, the project's not going to get approved. Secondly, just because a project is approved at the beginning of an evaluation process, maybe to go out and look at a bunch of different providers for a solution, it doesn't mean by the end of that period of time, it will still be approved. Priorities can change that quickly. And so you find yourself in a situation where, a company, you put some effort into something, only have that company come back and say, gee, our priority shifted. So it's competitive, not only from the standpoint of there are a lot of great solutions in the market, but it's competitive from the standpoint is there's not enough funding to go around for every one of these initiatives that these companies have, and they've got to prioritize. So I would say that's number one on that. So if you keep that in mind, then you can understand why something like cloud deployment is very, very important and critical. Why? Because it eliminates a huge investment up front in terms of capital required to secure servers and things like that, as well as training people on the technology stack. Okay, it eliminates the need to sink capital into a huge perpetual software license, as an example. So when you do that, you now have shrunk the amount of time for the implementation with that, because you're ready to go. You just flip a switch and the environment's ready to go. Okay. Down the road, what it also impacts is that dreaded upgrade that you don't have to do anymore. Right? If you think about it, that's the whole reason you buy software, is to get out of the software business. So let somebody else run it for you and let somebody else upgrade it for you. The biggest sin a company can do is buy a packaged software and then not stay current. It defeats the whole purpose of buying packaged software. So a cloud deployment, by definition, does that. Okay. So what that does is that opens the door to what I call accessibility. So now we've taken this huge investment and we've minimized that, or we've reduced that significantly. So the small, medium business market opens wide up. Their barrier to entry is gone. So whereas you saw like in the TMS industry, typically a lot of times you had to have, freight spend of 100 million or more to consider some of these bigger projects, then it was, well, okay, now there's some options for say 50 million or above. Well, really 50 million and below is in play now too. They've got needs just as important as somebody else, as somebody who's got a large volume, and they want to be efficient and so forth. So we eliminate that whole point with that, with that accessibility. We break that whole barrier down, and we can bring this kind of efficiency to smaller organizations as well, and do it in a reasonable time frame at a reasonable cost. And that really brings into play the implementation approach, because these big monolithic projects that you see, the days of those are gone. And so instead, what you need to do is you need to have a project that has a really well-defined scope, and take that scope and go be successful with it. Go get that win. Go get people thinking positively about the project. And if you document the business case, both before and after, and show the savings, you can now cascade those savings to fund the next part of the project. You could make the argument that the rest of the project is free because we just saved 10 million as an example in the first phase, or 1 million in the first phase. You can pay for the rest of the project with this money you otherwise wouldn't have had. So our solutions are modular, meaning you can start small and grow big. You can pick and choose where you need which area of our functionality is the critical need. Focus in on that first, get your success, and then either scale up or scale down as your business evolves or changes, or you simply want to add more functionality later. So we allowed you to do that. I think the idea of collaboration has been around forever, but I really think now with these cloud deployments and the ability to connect and communicate better is really bringing that finally to fruition. And so, the idea of collaborating and doing things like automated load tendering and carrier acceptance, as well as like the freight invoicing and settlement process, the analytics, being able to look for exceptions and then drill down, from an analytics screen and not know or care which system you're in, just that you're getting the answers you need and the information you need to make decisions. Because at the end of the day, you just care, is the system available? Does it run well? And does it run fast? And, so I would say those are the things that really we're delivering today. I think what comes for tomorrow is the idea of this artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that's the big buzzword right now. And that's the idea that says, with all this data out there and all this stuff that we've learned, both from mistakes and from things that have gone well, how can the system, how can the computer learn from this and make those easier decisions for us to free us up to focus in on the more difficult ones? And that's the holy grail. That's what artificial intelligence and machine learning it's beginning to deliver today, and it will deliver more and more in the future. So you should be asking about artificial intelligence and machine learning with every evaluation that you're going through today. So those are some of the things that we see going on.
Yeah, that's great. We've got just another minute or two. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask you real quick, just for people who are watching and may not be really familiar with Alpega, what industries do you guys really focus in on, Mark, where your customer base is using the TMS? And I'm sure it's all, but there's probably some real sweet spots there.
Yeah, so if you think about, the earlier question about Inet, the sweet spot there was in the automotive or the industrial verticals, very complex networks where the inbound shipments are as important as the outbound shipments. So that's one area. As I mentioned on the transwide side and the low end, the mining and the materials, the bulk shipments. But then there's a lot in between. We're seeing two areas. Chemical obviously is a big area for us. We're getting into CPG, food and beverage as well. But then retail, because retail is really now focusing in on their supply chain and not only just what's my inbound and making sure I've got the right inventory at the right points. And the reason they need to do that is because of their evolution to B2C,
right,
where they're shipping, the Amazon effect, where they're shipping home. So, it's not traditional retail in the sense of the store, it's retail in the sense of really the warehouse that's there at every store. And how do I serve my customers?
Perfect. Well, let me check the comments and just see. I want to make sure I didn't leave anybody out because we're doing this to educate the greater supply chain ecosystem. So we're clear there. I can't thank you enough for joining me. I know you're busy. I know the Alpega team is really busy. But, we wanted to bring you on because number one, you guys are a great partner. We wanted to highlight you specifically and let you, educate or give a great thought leadership and education to our ecosystem. And then also just to allow people to learn more about Alpega. So hopefully this has been fun for you. I enjoy this every week, getting to, just learn. And of course, it's great to see you and the lake in the background.
And the lake in the background. It's July. There might be 7 inches of snow on the ground, but it's still July as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on to that. And with that said, folks, please join us next week. We're going to shift gears a little bit and bring on another SI partner to talk about implementation strategy during a pandemic. And other than that, everyone have a great week. And Mark, thanks again. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciated it.
All right. See you
All right.
guys. Bye.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.